Hey everyone, we're going to jump into this game against Oldhim here. Now, probably no secret that Oldhim is probably our worst matchup. And so I did want to try to document a game where we try to play to the best of our ability and probably still lose, but at least see if there's any possible errors or misplays that either could benefit us or benefit our opponent. So the consideration I'm trying to make right now is between Goliath Gauntlet and Achilles Accelerator versus the Iron Rod suite. Or sorry, the Iron Hide suite with gloves and boots. The nice thing about gloves and boots are it allows us to block out a dominate attack. So for instance, our whole equipment setup now fully blocks out like the blue Macho Grande, or with a, let's see, with a 3-block, we could pitch a yellow or a blue, block with 2 Iron Hides and either Teklo Foundry Heart or Skullcap if it's active, and we can actually fully block out an Oakenolt, I think. Yes, because we block 9. And so I thought that was an interesting choice for this matchup, although I just want to try running the typical setup. Part of the nice thing about Achilles Accelerator is that it gets through Blizzard. So if they ever Blizzard you into a boost attack, you can choose not to pay the 2. You don't lose go again. But then you can break Achilles Accelerator and regain your action point, so it's just a 1-card counter against Blizzard. Also, I think how we'll be using it in this matchup is when we hit our maximum velocity turn, we'll save the Achilles Accelerator and then break it and then shoot the barrel shot after the maximum velocity. Or if, you know, for some reason it's absolutely absurd and we can play 2 maximum velocities, but I don't ever anticipate that happening. So our opponent comes out with just a crush attack here. Just trying to pressure cards out of our hand since we're going first. If we block with 3 cards, then our deck is effectively 3 cards smaller. And I expect the Oldhim player to be trying to fatigue us out here, unfortunately. Our deck also does it for us. It's partially why this matchup is so hard. We're just trying to pitch stack a little bit here. That just includes putting some reds on the bottom of the deck to hopefully begin to close out the game. And right now we're just playing the Teklovossen and we're just hoping to draw maximum velocity, which is exactly what happens here. The only problem is that this hand isn't really geared towards playing it. We just have a lot of 1 costs. We don't have any blues, and we don't have really any 0 costs. We have a T-Bone, but oddly enough, the T-Bone is also the card that we would want to pitch here. Kind of unfortunate. Like if the zipper hit was a blue, we would have access to 5 resources between those 2 cards, which then means we could play T-Bone, Overloop, the zipper hit in our arsenal, and then play maximum velocity. So that would actually be really, really good if the zipper hit was blue or something like that. I think even if the T-Bone was a blue, I think this hand would still be playable, but we just decided to start going for it here, and we do run ourselves a risk of getting ice reacted, so that is a potential, you know, consideration, is that what happens to our opponent ice reacts us here. So we want to kind of like almost slow roll the hand a little bit, see if we can get most of our opponent's cards out, and maybe kind of disguise the fact that we're going for maximum velocity. Although I think if you're the Oldhim player, you should just expect it here, if we're gonna be keeping this many cards. And with the Teklo core, there's not much of a reason that I would be boosting this early in the game if I wasn't trying to go for maximum velocity. So the problem with this matchup is that Oldhim is very defensive naturally. Oldhim has really good ways to block you out, has very good ways to disrupt your resources, your hand, with like ice react, things like that. And Dash already banishes the top of her deck to gain go again. You already have issues where Dash will just run out of cards, and even into like aggro matchups, mid-range matchups. So into a deck that's already trying to fatigue in Blitz, especially Oldhim and Blitz, where fatigue is actually a viable strategy for Oldhim, where you just simply keep your deck size high by just ice and earth reacting the whole time, pitching a crown, pitching a shield, your D reacts, and just hammering for 4 every turn until eventually your opponent starts having to block with 1 or 2 cards on hammer. You just fatigue your opponent extremely easily, so that's just part of the problem here. And so our opponent decides to throw Stalagmite in front. Now, oddly, Stalagmite's very good into this version of the deck. Mainly because of the fact that our resources get really tight on maximum velocity turns. Like, we really need just enough resources to play these cards and then to also play maximum velocity at the end. So right here, I am kind of worried that our opponent is going to ice react us because we really want to set up maximum velocity in Arsenal because we have one more Teklovossen activation left. However, the nice thing is that if they ice react us here, it means that they can't hammer us and put a card in Arsenal. Also, we barrel shot here just to threaten a little bit harder. Just because boosting 3 cards, there's no reason to keep the barrel shot, you know, around this turn. I think 4 or 5 is when you pull the trigger on it, even if it's not at the end of like a maximum velocity chain. Because now we could possibly reload it and still use it later on, so we're just getting value out of it now. I think this is a perfectly acceptable time to pull the trigger on it, especially because we do want to not get ice reacted here. We want our opponent to block with a card and then want to save a card for Arsenal and the Crown, because it's just very advantageous for them being able to Crown and play a lot of these 2-cost D-reacts like Staunch Response and Turn Timber. So this is also partially trying to keep us from getting ice reacted, and we're just really hoping that with a 5-card hand, maximum velocity and Arsenal, but unfortunately we do get ice reacted here anyway. But we were hoping that with a 5-card hand we would have been able to play it on the following turn. But assuming we don't get ice reacted again, we could still Arsenal this. I think if you also really care about getting this in Arsenal, you could just simply like pass here. Like you could just overpitch to your pistol, maybe filter some of these cards. So like maybe keep the blue T-bone, maybe keep the zipper hit. I'm not super sure if I'd want to do that. And then just simply Arsenal maximum velocity. And I think that's what I'm considering here. The only problem is that we've seen our opponent is on a more mid-range disruptive style of Oldhim. So the problem is that I feel like if I give them a full hand with 5 cards, there's a good chance they're going to play either a Crush effect or an Endless Winter or maybe an Oakenold. And we're already at 12, so our life total is starting to drop a little bit. So part of this is if I get maybe like 2 cards from them, they probably can't play a really crazy Crush card. So like they still could play something like Spinal Crush, right? Spinal Crush is an Arsenal. That was another thing too, is being worried about cards like Spinal Crush. If I was seeing Turn Timber and Staunch Response like yellows here, I would, you know, that's a list of Oldhim that isn't going to be playing as many disruptive effects. But, you know, if I'm seeing a lot of ice cards, so I'm seeing Endless Winter, if I'm seeing Blizzard, you know, there's a good chance, see right here, we see Spinal Crush, there's a good chance I'm probably going to see CNC, I'm going to see, you know, like E-Strike and Endless Winter, which we've already been hit with Endless Winter. So I did not really want to give the Oldhim a 5-card hand just because I assume that I'm going to be disrupted in a way that is going to make it not really possible for me to play my next hand. So we boost and we just kind of open ourselves up to getting ice reacted again. But it's with the intention that we're able to, yeah, draw enough cards that our opponent needs to keep stuff to have their own turn. And then we get to, I think we have to reset the board here because TTS randomly pulled cards in the deck. But yeah, that was, you know, that was the intention, right? Our opponent obviously wants to keep a card for Crown. They obviously want to keep a card to Hammer, especially if the Hammer is threatening a Frostbite. If we really need the Frostbite to get through this next turn, we can actually block with Skullcap and Foundry Heart and not take the Frostbite here at all and just prevent 4. So right here, we're looking at this hand. There's no way for us to boost 3 times, unfortunately. So it does kind of change maybe how we want to block. Now there's a consideration to simply 0 to 60 into payload for 8 with Dominate. And that seems pretty solid here. I think we just decided to take the damage just to not have to think about it. If you want to, but also it's just to keep a lot of cards in hand because now we can effectively start playing around Ice React, which is pretty important here. And we do have to pay 1 for the Frostbite to deal with this. Let's see what our opponent does here. And we see Rouse, you know, and Glacial. So this is definitely a more aggressive version of Oldhim, or one that has the ability to pivot into playing pretty aggressive, having lots of disruption. So we are really tied. I almost feel like this matchup can be more difficult because in the defensive versions, even though they're much better at blocking damage, you have the time and the ability to slowly set up hands. So just pitching hands together with maximum velocity that work, digging to find your items and setting up maybe 2 to 3 items, and then just drawing into these really crazy hands you have the time to pitch stack. But this deck makes it very difficult because as soon as we say like, okay, I'm just going to pitch like 3 cards to the bottom and pass, you know, we get hit with like Righteous Cleansing, we get hit with like Channel Lake Frigid, we get hit with Spinal Crush. So all this stuff just sucks. There's no other way to put it. But we got rid of our opponent's armor. Armor's completely depleted here. There's no stalagmite. So assuming that our opponent doesn't have a super disruptive effect, we actually have a hand that can now perfectly play maximum velocity and can break Achilles into the barrel shot. We do have to be careful about Ice React here. Ice React completely shuts us down. So if we do get Ice Reacted, we probably just put 0 to 60 on top of the deck, the blue one, so that our next hand at least has a blue pitch. We're hoping that we pressure hard enough that our opponent doesn't really have the ability to Ice React, because if you do Ice React, you are depleting yourself basically a card. You're trading 1 for 1 with your opponent, but if it's a defense reaction, there's an issue now where if you presented too much damage, then, you know, you're basically leaking 3 damage through. So here we have the second ones, they're still keeping that blue. Now unfortunately we just lost our second maximum velocity, which is going to make it pretty difficult for us to close the game out past here. But we see here that we're not sure yet if our opponent's going to Ice React this. I can't remember if they actually drew an ice card here. I think if you're the Oldhim player, I don't really know what to do here because you can't Ice React this anymore. Now we actually did misplay a little bit, but it wasn't really a misplay. So the thing was that we could have used Barrel Shot and used Achilles. And so there's a few lines here, and I think we chose probably one of the worst ones. So the first option is that you Goliath Gauntlet before this chain, right? So then that way you're able to Barrel Shot for 4 afterwards, breaking Achilles, which may have been lethal here. I'm not sure. I'm literally explaining this to my opponent. The problem is, if you do Goliath Gauntlet, assuming our opponent has an ice card, it's like extremely telegraphed. So our opponent, if they have an ice card, just simply just Ice Reacts us to stop it. I don't think our opponent had an ice card. The alternative there is you also do maximum velocity in a barrel shot, and you just save the Goliath Gauntlet, which I think was probably the better option here if we wanted to disguise the maximum velocity, but still basically have the damage output, right? Because then you get to Barrel Shot for 4 on the end, which would have been more than 2, so our opponent would be at 1 currently instead of 3. So I think that was actually a misplay on our part. Now the only nice thing is that our opponent's going to be pretty much blocking us out for the rest of the game, and now we get a complete control, and we still have Achilles and Barrel Shot left over. And we've seen 1 Blizzard pitch so far, so we do know our opponent runs Blizzard. So we're not completely ruined by this misplay, but there were 3 separate lines where either you just play the maximum velocity, you don't Achilles, and you don't Goliath Gauntlet. You Goliath Gauntlet before, or you don't Goliath Gauntlet and then you Achilles Barrel Shot afterwards. So there were 3 possible lines. We decided to take the one where we Goliath Gauntlet and maximum velocity, but then do it in a way where we close the chain afterwards, because maximum velocity is the only card that doesn't care about the chain. It just says boosted 3 times in 1 turn. Well, every other card in Dash will say for every card you boosted on the chain, you know, if you boosted a card this chain, for every boosted card on the chain. So they have all these like conditional things, but for some reason maximum velocity is the one card that doesn't care about that. It just says if you boosted 3 times this turn. So yeah. At this point, we're just trying to set up counter and then probably put the 0 to 16 Arsenal, just because we really need the 0 cost to go wide enough so that we can close the game out with Barrel Shot. Because even something like a 2-block left on our opponent's hand, which I mean, Oldhim surprisingly does run 2 blocks, just from the Tales of Aria card pool. If we catch them with 1-2, like 1-2 block left in hand, then even like a Barrel Shot for 4 is lethal at the end of a chain. So we're just thinking here, if you know, we think that we're gonna get Okanolded, that is a problem, right? Their health is so low that even a blue high-speed impact threatens a card from them. I'm really just worried about Spinal Crush. I'm worried about Okanold. Keeping them with 3-card hand means if they have 2 blues and an Okanold, then or sorry, 2 blues and Spinal Crush, and we have to block. If it's like Oakenold with Pulse, it's crazy, you know, there's a really big problem there. And we get absolutely punished by this. Because we could have just simply, yeah, so that was pretty bad. That was pretty bad. We take a vanilla 4 here. We do have to be somewhat careful, because at this point, I think Oakenold actually kills us. So I think maybe I should have blocked, but also I'm just hoping that I can pressure my opponent hard enough that they don't even get to keep a hand that would include Oakenold. So yeah. Let's see what we do here. I think that I understand my reasoning behind it, you know? If you leave the Oldhim with a 3-card hand, that's pretty dangerous. Because there's a lot of things that can go wrong, especially when we're only at 8, you know? There's definitely some hands that can cause some really massive issues. So I understand why I wanted to do it, but yeah. I'm not really sure if it was the correct play. You know, I think you could just easily set up there. You set up the Pounder, you put the card in Arsenal, the blue 0 to 60, and assuming it's just not like Spinal Crush, you're perfectly fine on the following turn. So I think that we may have gotten a little bit too, I think we may have played a little bit too cautiously there. I think we just needed to risk it, you know, like somehow we're already this close to beating our worst matchup. I think you just have to just hope that they don't have it, you know. I mean, off a 3-card hand, it's pretty unlikely, but I mean, there's a very real possibility. So I understand my concern for wanting to just remove an extra card from our opponent's hand, but it did backfire pretty hard. And we end up letting them have a 3-card hand anyway. So there was really no point, except now we're at 4. So I think we're just dead to fused Oakenold. Although we do know that they actually can't have fused Oakenold because we just saw the Pulse. So I think that's why I was now comfortable doing this, but I hope that makes sense, like why that possibly could have been the wrong thing. We see Oakenold with no Pulse. Sort of what we talked about earlier. So we're checking to see if they could pummel here. It doesn't look like they can pummel. Yep, we're just gonna go to 1 here. I think maybe we should have kept the blue T-bone. Or sorry, we should have kept the yellow T-bone. I think keeping the blue one here doesn't make any sense. I think that was a misplay on my part. Because there's no reason for us to have the blue one. We already have the 1 resource for the high-speed impact in Arsenal. Yeah, I'm already realizing that I just misplayed hard there, because then our opponent could just go to 1, you know. So that was kind of dumb on our part, honestly. kind of a misplay, but that's okay. So we're just waiting to see if we get ice reacted. I think that could have been also part of it, is just playing around ice react, assuming we were going to get ice reacted. I think at this point it looks like we have it regardless, because we have, assuming our opponent doesn't ice react us at any other point throughout this turn, we just have it, right? Well, at this point we know we have it, because 2 cards, even if they ice react us here, we can play the high speed impact out of Arsenal for 2. They have 1 card left in hand, they're forced to block it, and then you can barrel shot for 3. Or they don't ice react this, you can play 2 more cards, T-bone, even though it's a blue one, it should have been the yellow. I should have blocked with the blue and kept the yellow, because the blue one takes them to 1, the yellow one actually kills them. But if they have no ice reacts, oh sorry, I forgot it's an overloop in Arsenal. Oh, that's so silly. Okay, that makes sense. But also, we should have still kept probably the yellow T-bone, because then the yellow T-bone goes back in the deck. I can't believe I blanked on what card was in Arsenal. So yeah, because if it's the yellow one, right, assuming that through a miracle they're able to live through this turn, now the bottom of our deck. I mean, I think that the thing is too, is that we just lose next turn anyway. We have so few cards, I don't even think we can boost again to go again. We just had to close it out that turn. That was super lucky. We just barely got there. But hopefully that was pretty helpful in how you can sort of set up into Oldhim and maybe try to close those games out. So yeah, thanks for watching.